And we're live. Welcome back to the LOOPcast. Today, Josh is out, as you may know. He's on vacation, but we have Tinfoil Tom, the one and only Tom McCluskey. Tom, thanks for taking the time on this Friday.
Just got to represent the baldness.
And of course, we have Erica, who we're happy to have here as well. So today, as I want to put out there, it is FAQ Friday. We're going to try doing this more regularly, where throughout this episode, just go ahead and leave a question in the chat. It can be politics related. It could be personal. It could be a joke. It could be anything. We actually had someone leave one in the email. I'm glad that it's catching on, so I'll go with that one first. But thank you to everyone joining us here in the chat today. Go ahead and leave those. I have someone collecting them, and I'm going to go after those questions towards the end. You can ask Tom McCluskey, how he's so handsome, what that, what do you call that there? Traffic light on her shirt means. There's a story behind that. And you could just ask Erica how she's so great. I don't know. You got plenty of questions we can ask. Good morning to everyone here in the chat. So what we witnessed here was the closing ceremony, the coronation, if you will, of Kamala Harris at the DNC. Kamala Harris accepted the nomination of her party, unsurprising, and she gave quite the speech. Her and Tim Walz. Tim Walz gave the speech the other day. We haven't recorded since Wednesday. We have thoughts on all of these, but Tom, were you tuning in? And what was your general sentiment on the closeout of the DNC?
I mean, quite honestly, normally I don't watch these speeches unless I'm on camera and drinking with Josh Mercer. But
it is more fun that way.
I'm an early riser. I did get up this morning and watched her, and it was, everything I've seen, it was a good speech, except I'm glad I didn't have any bricks or anything around me as I had it on TV, because knowing this woman's record, I know she was lying through most of it. And in the media is, of course, towing her line, calling her a centrist, whereas she has been anything but. Compared to her, Joe Biden is a centrist.
So you have a long history in D.C. You knew her as a senator, I'd assume, right?
Not real. I never with her or anything like that. At the time, I was with the March for Life, and if you could imagine, she didn't really clamor to speak at the March for Life or anything like that.
Really?
So
shocking.
I think she was busy sending people in to persecute her political opponents, aka David Daleiden, in the expose.
Right.
Expose on Planned Parenthood.
I probably have more exposure to her then, because at the time, like all of us were trying to fight to defend David. So just knew she was.
I joke about that, but I mean, part of the speech was that she's all about not jailing journalists, and that Trump is. Could we just quickly talk about the David Daleiden story? I mean, it's so outrageous, and I don't even know if everyone remembers it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if Erica, do you have any history on it?
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I can give the background, and then I'd love to hear kind of as an insider, Tom, I would love to hear what you were doing behind the scenes there. But Daniel Daleiden, as many of our listeners know, undercover journalist, he went in to Planned Parenthood facilities. He had lunches. He posed as, for lack of better words, a human fetal parts trafficker. And he filmed these conversations he had with Planned Parenthood administrators, workers, and he basically got them to admit on camera as an undercover journalist that they were trafficking in human fetal remains and performing late-term abortions. The most recent releases of his videos confirmed, it's just so horrific. I couldn't even watch them, but these Planned Parenthood administrators saying, oh yeah, to avoid these partial birth abortion bans, we just make sure we rip the child apart inside the womb, and before we extract them, then we can take their organs. And it's just horrific stuff, illegal stuff. And Kamala Harris, after meeting when these videos started to come out, and I believe it was 2015, 2016, he starts to drop these videos. Planned Parenthood goes to Kamala Harris, the Attorney General for California, and says, we do something about this, essentially. And so his home gets raided, and she seizes all the evidence that he's accumulated through the years. And yeah, I don't know, McCluskey, if you want to add to that, but that's sort of the background on what we're talking about. Tom can't hear me. But
yeah, that's the background on all that. But I think I'd like to get into a little bit of the speech here if we can. So first off, impression. She starts off with this long story about her childhood. Of course, it was very endearing, and as the production goes, exactly what you would expect, right? To come out with sympathizing for being in the middle class, for being raised by a single mother at one point, talking about her heritage. And then you start getting into a little bit more of the meat of the speech, which of course I'm continually impressed as, and both sides do this, but Democrats especially, they're completely defined by opposition to Trump. It seemed like they lack somewhat of a central vision for the Democratic plan for the country. And in a lot of ways, I think it's intentional. It allows less surface area for them to be attacked on. But a lot of the attack lines that she used on Donald Trump, and I saw a great Tucker clip on this, but I think it's borderline insulting to our intelligence. First off being, I fought cartels to secure the border. She currently is the border czar. I mean, she's in office. We've had the most illegal immigration of any country of any time in history. So that, I mean, that's just a lie. That's just an outward lie. Trump will jail political opponents. I mean, do we have to laugh about that for a second? He's undergoing 4 different trials right now. I mean, the lawfare has been insane. Trump would free violent offenders from January 6th. He said he sent an armed mob to the Capitol, which no one in the Capitol was armed. The only person shot was a protester who was shot by Nancy Pelosi's personal security detail. And a lot of them actually still locked up with no trial. So another just insulting lie. And then my personal favorite, we're defending the bedrock values of America. I even saw someone tweet saying, like, it's so cool to see the Democrats take back the American flag, which there's a lot to unpack there. But the first being that somehow it ever was lost or that it was never representative of everyone. And I mean, how much time have we been lectured by Democrats that the flag is racist, white supremacist, wanting to keep your guns is somehow makes you a dangerous person, using your free speech makes you a dangerous person. I mean, quite literally all the bedrock values of America, we've been lectured for 3 years about how we're racist, we should be ashamed of it, and that we need something new. And now you get the flip around of like, oh no, but I actually support all of those things. So again, a very manicured, carefully maintained image that's being presented here. It's going to be curious to see if the sugar high kind of wears off here after the DNC. Trump maybe tries to reclaim the message as he has a special guest at his Arizona rally. My bold prediction, it's going to be RFK Jr. dropping out and joining him, as I predicted a while ago. But yeah, those are my impressions on the speech. And Erica, I wanted to get a little bit more about your thoughts maybe as the closing.
Yeah, I think obviously we can laugh about and just sort of mock the blatant mendacity of this. She is so clearly lying. We have the receipts. The chilling thing about it for me is that she was so good at it. She came across as very, I think the way Reuters described her speech, Reuters, the great, objective reporting outlet. I think the way they described it was she was muscular, but all joking aside, like she delivered, she knows how to read a script. She knows how to act a part. She's very good at this. And with the mainstream media so in the bag for the Democratic Party, she could win. I was on Relevant Radio this morning, and one of the questions they asked was, do you think that they can keep this up? Kamala scripted, Kamala manicured, Kamala the harbinger of joy and bringing back democracy and everyone's mom. Can they keep this up through November and avoid any of those hard presser, in-depth interviews, et cetera? And I said, I think they're going to try their darndest, because when she's not being asked to actually speak anything of substance, she's very good at the rhetoric and coming across that way. So I think they are going to try. And this came across to me too, watching Tim Walls's speech the night before, that these people are just willing to lie about anything. I do think he got a little uglier than she was willing to go last night. He made a couple, the line that really sticks out to everyone and everyone's talking about is when he's like, here in Minnesota, talking about reproductive abortion and all that stuff. When we're here in Minnesota, we tell everyone to just mind their own damn business. So like, you can't tell me not to trans my kid. Line. You can't tell me. But in reality, and that's just so blatantly obvious of how he's actually governed. I mean, you think of the snitch lines during COVID, right?
Right.
But what actually stuck out to me more was this sort of anti-learning, anti-intellectual element or theme that he has going. Like, I'm the hick guy, I'm the high school teacher. None of my students went to Yale. Obviously, like this dig at JD Vance, who went to Yale Law School. JD Vance also went to Ohio State on a scholarship. So, like, it's again
interesting flex as a teacher too. Like, yeah, none of my kids reached the heights of education. I mean, what?
I know, you're like, can we just think about that for a second? But it's this sort of like thug, anti-intellectual hobo thing that you see in all of the major totalitarian regimes of the 20th century as well. I was like going through my list of, the people that Hitler surrounded him with. I mean, a lot of just dumb thugs. You look at Stalin's guys, like you look at Chairman Mao, you look at Pol Pot, and this sort of theme of like, we don't need no education. We need to get rid of all these old ideas. That scares me. To be honest,
why specifically does that scare you? I don't think it'd be nice to get a historical context on that. Other than, of course, it just being kind of annoying, intentionally dumbed down language.
Yeah. So, like, I'm no fan of Yale. Like, no secret there. I've been very open about how I think the Ivy Leagues have been co-opted by the left, et cetera. But when you start to have this element at the very highest reaches of power, thinking that in order to appeal to the masses who they do need to vote for them still, and they do need in order to kind of see their vision through, in order to appeal to those people, we need to meet them where they're at and keep them where they're at. Right. So we need to tell the poor middle class, poor rural America, you are fine just the way you are, which is dumb, fat, sick, poor. And, don't let these people like JD Vance say the American dream is a good thing because you can get a degree, you can buy a house, you can have a family. Right. And that kind of blatant using of people instead of and sort of it's a total rejection of the idea that the role of government is to help people have a better life for the common good, right? They're just blatantly rejecting that now. That you're fine. You can stay in the ghetto. You can stay in, Podunk, Kentucky and die of fentanyl overdosing. You don't need any of these Yale people. That line of reasoning is something that I think we see in the rise of totalitarian regimes. And so to see it so blatantly put out there on the DNC stage as a line that Tim Walz is campaigning on is chilling.
Yeah, for sure. We're having all kinds of weird stuff going on with Tom in the background.
I know.
So Tom,
McCluskey, can you hear me?
You know what? We this is why we just need Josh to record a video of him ranting about something, and I'll just play it. And that would give me so much time to figure out all of these issues.
Oh my gosh. Well, I tried to do the rant on the anti-intellectualism there.
Listen, and you did a great job. So I am going to continue on here. So one of the things that really stuck out to me from the DNC, and I don't want to spend forever in the DNC because it's over and I'm pretty happy that it's over. But one of the clips that I saw kind of made me laugh, and I figured I should share with the audience here.
Male figures put forward male figures, Tim Walz being one of them, Doug Emhoff last night, who can speak to men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy who wants to listen to Hulk Hogan and the kind of players that came out at the RNC, or might want to listen to that, but also, in addition, understand that it's okay in 2024 to be a man comfortable in his own skin who supports a woman. And that's something that they really are trying to work on with male.
So, someone with some testosterone flowing through my veins, I watched that. And all I could think about was, like, Democrats are reeling with the reality. And I just watched a video from the Washington Post on a poll saying that where Democrats have lost the most is young male voters. They've increased with young female voters, but young male voters have left. And from a personal perspective, I'm thinking why this is, like, for example, you get the message from Trump of like, I just got shot, but I'm up here talking to you. And then you get from Democrats, Doug Emhoff coming up and they're the Democrats are trying to present him as like America's dad, Tim Walz, America's dad. And like Doug Emhoff famously, ended his first marriage by sleeping with a nanny. So I don't know why it's a surprise to young men. And I do feel a lot like Democrats have kind of become, it's funny, they're running this as an underdog campaign, but we're talking about people that dominate academia, speech police, official circles, right? And as like, it feels like I'm being talked to by a hall monitor. And as a man with testosterone, I don't want to be talked to like a hall monitor, right? Like I don't know. That's why I just feel like the messaging, it's no surprise to me, but I don't know if you guys get that impression as well.
In the Democrats' defense, I think a lot of the women probably at the convention had a lot of testosterone. So that might have made up for anything that was missing there. And in defense of Democratic voters, Media Research Center just had a poll that people just don't understand just how radical I think the Democratic Party is, let alone Kamala Harris. 70% of Democrats and independents are unaware of a lot of their policy positions, be it on life, be it on immigration. This will go down. If Kamala Harris wins, and unfortunately there's a chance of that, this will go down as the gaslighting election. Like in 20 years' time, if not even sooner, we'll be writing about how all those factors that you mentioned in the media got together to gaslight the American public, to make them think they're voting for something that they're not.
Right.
Yeah. I do think it's rich that the left, I mean, yeah, my friend Ross Douthat over at the New York Times, he actually wrote a great column on this is the election where masculinity is on the ballot. And he made the point that you would think by now the left would be hesitant to roll out the personal witness of the pro-choice dude, right? After Harvey Weinstein, I think he cited Elliot Spitzer, Bill Clinton, who comes out on the stage. I mean, this was, and you mentioned Doug Emhoff's history, for them to, yeah, the whole, sorry, it makes me really angry, so I'm tripping over my words here. But the Me Too case studies, it's that these men who are presenting themselves as so deferential to women, supportive of women's reproductive freedoms, to use the euphemism, they are actually the predators, and they're actually exploiting women in their lives. And we have the receipts. Like when Bill Clinton walked out on that stage on, I think it was Wednesday night, and he just got a standing ovation, and women in the audience were like weeping for joy because Bill's out there on the stage. I just wanted to throw up. I'm like, what? This is so Stockholm syndrome. Why are we lauding this man as somehow the male feminist when all of these guys have had dismal records with the women who are actually in their lives? Yeah,
it reminded me of Bernie Sanders coming on and saying how much he hates billionaires, and then them following up with JB Pritzker being like, I'm the real billionaire. Like, hear it from me. Trump doesn't have anything on me. It's like, it felt like a lot of schizophrenic messaging from Democrats. And especially as like the Democrats were kind of the Me Too party, like the speech police and the men police or whatever. And now they've kind of lost the plot on who a woman is to begin with. Unsurprising, right? I mean, you even saw like Katie Cox is like the biggest. She's soaking up the spotlight, and her claim to fame is basically aborting her child who had trisomy 19. And so there was another contrast going on because Tim Walz has a son with special needs, I guess. And of course, internet blows up because he was crying and some people were making fun of him. And that's like, okay, the internet does that. It's probably not great. I agree. So, but at the same time, you turn around, you hear Katie Cox saying, I can't wait. I'm a delegate from here. I can't wait to cast a vote for Kamala Harris. And it's because she allows me to abort my child because they said he would never amount to anything. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's like, he's not going to have a normal life. And so I aborted him, or my child, and now I'm pregnant with my fourth. And so like they were cheering for the abort part, and then they were cheering for the fourth part. And I'm like, okay, so they're mad about, people saying things about a child with special needs here, but then to abort one is somehow empowering, I guess. Like, again, on the schizophrenic messaging, I'm like, there's really not. And then, of course, having vans outside so that people can castrate themselves and kill their babies. Like, what are the Democrats saying here? To me, all that was just shown throughout these nights are like, who really is, geez, Tom's gone again, but who is the party with a consistent pro-life ethic? And I feel like Republicans for too long have just kind of given that away and just been like, yeah, they've allowed liberals to really beat them over the head with welcome the stranger. Somehow immigration policy is not pro-Catholic or pro-life. And now I feel like we're even getting, like they said, it's not pro-life or pro-woman to force women to go without reproductive health care, which of course is a twisted euphemism. So now even not wanting abortion is somehow not pro-life. It's like, how far can we allow this to twist before someone, and I guess I think about this more and more, and this is kind of what communists or Marxists do, right? It's like their whole messaging has just been insulting lies to people's intelligence about what the truth is. But to a communist or Marxist, that doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is confusion. Right. The point is to not allow people to know actual positions so that you can just then do what you want. What's the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is power. So I'm following all this and I'm confused. And I'm in this every day. And I'm like, I'm confused as what Democrats are saying. And the more that I get into it, the more I realize this is kind of the point, is to confuse people as much as possible and to try to not anger people in the middle so that you can just grab power and then enact what you want to enact, which she did do while she was in the Senate, which she did do while she's the literal vice president. And she's asking for more time to do things that she could literally just hop on a plane, go to DC and do now. I don't know.
And that was Donald Trump's immediate reaction, right, to her speech. He got on Truth Social and he said, why doesn't she just go do the things she's complaining about not getting done? Like, she's had 3.5 years. And I think that someone in our Slack, we were like tossing around our reactions this morning on Slack at Catholic Vote, and someone was like, if you want to go insane, just join the Democratic Party. Like, you literally are just kind of giving up your brain and any right to think clearly and to make evidence-based conclusions based on what's actually happened. And like you said, Tom, I think it is the Marxist playbook. It is the Alinsky playbook. And, our job at this point is to help bring the truth to as many people as possible before they cast their ballot, and play the part that the mainstream media has abdicated for the last, 60 years? I don't want to go back that far. If the Oracle is listening, as his wife is telling us in the chat, he could give the exact date at which the mainstream media became unreliable, but I'll go with maybe 30 years. So
there you go. I hate to even do this at this point, but Tinfoil Tom, I might just say, I think we've lost Tinfoil Tom officially. So join the chat if you have questions for Tom. He knew something.
They took him out.
He knew something that could lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton, I guess. Sorry, we've officially lost Tom. But we must carry on. We must soldier on. Thank you for your service, Tom. It's now just me and Erica. All right, cool. All right. So at this point, and Erica, you had something, and I want to talk more positive news. I saw there was some news on the Shroud of Turin, and maybe I am just alone in this, but I feel like I've kind of intentionally, I've heard a lot about it, and I kind of intentionally have not really dove headfirst into it because I've just waited to do that at some point. I don't know. It's kind of been on my peripheral. I hear that there's news about it. What's going on with the Shroud?
Oh my gosh. So the Shroud of Turin, I love this. This is a great little segment for a Friday. So in the 1980s, 1988, they do radiocarbon dating on it and conclude that the Shroud is in fact, only about 700 or 800 years old. And so all the headlines, of course, are the Shroud is proven to be, well, some of the scientists, not even Catholic scientists, but scientists who John Paul II had invited to come and study the Shroud, they looked at this study and they said, there's a lot of problems here, like the sample that was taken was contaminated when they were trying to repair the shroud. During the Middle Ages, there was a fire that was in the church, so the shroud was miraculously saved from the fire, but the heat would have affected the radiocarbon dating. So just this year, there was some new technology. So scientists were permitted to go in and use this new X-ray technology to get a more accurate date. And surprise, surprise, the shroud, they have just concluded that the shroud is in fact much older. And in fact, it's about 2,000 years old. Whoa. So they actually dated it to the 1st century AD using this new X-ray technology that examines the linen fibers. And again, just a few more cool facts about the shroud that I think I'm trying to get Pogo to actually, get into this because it's super cool. So the pollen, so they've also tested the pollen on the cloth. They can take these ancient pollen samples. And it turns out that the pollen is from plant life unique to Judea, so the region where Jesus Christ was, that the woven pattern is the product of 1st century weaving techniques. So that matches up. And the AB blood stains actually predate the image on the cloth. On the image of the man's face, you can see that these 2 coins have been placed on the eyes, which was a traditional Jewish practice in the 1st century. The coins, they can actually zoom in on them now with technology, and it turns out that they were minted in AD 29 in Palestine under the rule of none other than the Pontius Pilato. So those are the coins that are on the eyes of the image. And then the image itself, it only appears on the surface layer of the shroud. Okay. So it's not paint that soaked into it. It's not some kind of burning that actually destroyed the linens and the fibers. So it wasn't dyed with vapor or gas. Instead, the only feasible explanation that scientists can come up with, and many of these scientists studying it, again, they're not Catholic, they're atheists, they're agnostic, although one of them is converting this year, apparently. Surprise, surprise. But the only feasible explanation that physicists accept is that an astoundingly powerful and extremely brief flash of light occurred. Father Spitzer, in his analysis, says what would be required to make this image is 6 to 8 billion watts of light energy emanating for 1/40 billionth of a second. Anything more, it would burn the fabric. Anything less, it would not have left an image. So it's amazing to go dig into the science here. I would highly recommend everyone go check out Father Spitzer at the Magus Center. All of his work on the shroud, his talks about it are fantastic. But they call it the 5th witness. So we have the 4 gospel witnesses. They call the shroud the 5th witness. And all of the scientific studies seem to confirm or track with the gospel accounts of the resurrection of Christ. So it's a really neat story. Really cool interplay between faith and reason that I think is unique to Catholicism in many ways.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love to see this play out.
I even saw this tweet too about the British filmmaker David Rolfe. So set out to make this documentary, and quote, "I started off an atheist and then became agnostic, and I am now a Christian because I cannot possibly understand anything else that could have produced that image," he says.
Yeah, pretty powerful. And I mean, people will ask, well, so it's authentic, so what? Some people will say this is proof that the resurrection happened. And it's hard to say it's proof in the sense that you can have a geometric proof that the AAA or the angle side angle or whatever.
You getting into geometry on us?
You can't compel faith. You can't compel faith in the resurrection by scientific proof. But what I think it does do is it strengthens the faith of those who have assented, and it invites to the moment of faith those who are still doubtful. And God comes at us. God comes for us in any way he can get to us, right? So some people convert because they see something beautiful. Some people convert because they have, they encounter someone in their life, like a Mother Teresa or a saint. And some convert because they see that science points to the realities of the Christian faith. Even if they don't prove them, they point to.
Uh-oh. We lost Erica. I mean, we're back.
I mean, we are so back.
In the words of Jeb Bush, it's over. We are back. And we brought Tinfoil Tom back with us. Tom, so you can hear both of us now, correct?
Unfortunately, yes. Because out of the two of you who I don't want to hear, no offense, Tom. But
That's fair. That's fair. You're taking on the role of Josh and making me doing my job more challenging.
Oh my gosh. What a crazy.
So I'm glad to be back. I hope you guys enjoyed the Shroud of Turin information. I was just going to say, and we're going to have some more people piling in here, but Erica, can I ask you a personal question?
Oh, sure. Personal.
So you were talking about the journey people have with their faith. Some people come in very intellectually. Some people need proof, right? Some people need that miracle. For you personally, what was your faith journey like? Did you feel like it was more intellectual? Did you feel like it was more emotional?
Yeah, that's a hard question. I always had this sort of inferiority complex because, I was friends with a lot of converts in college and later on in life, and they all have these amazing stories of like the moment or the thing that brought them to Christ or brought them to the church. And I had a much more, I guess, not cradle Catholic, but cradle Christian upbringing that my parents raised me to love Jesus. We were raised in really the evangelical church until I was about 12. And right about the time that you start to get ornery and rebel against your parents, they converted, my dad reverted to Catholicism. And so I think God just was sort of taking care of me in that way because he really used that orneriness to like rebel against Martin Luther in me. But what really sold me on the conversion to the Catholic Church was a book by Mary Beth Bonacci, and it was her book to young people about John Paul II. And I read his addresses. So I was like 13 when I got this book, and reading his addresses to young people and really his writing on the Eucharist. I think I was just so blown away by how the faith that I'd had as a child and love of Christ and like memorizing the scriptures, because that's what good Protestant kids do. I had my Bible verse little pack of like cards that I've memorized. And that all was finding its fruition in the Eucharist. And I think the other moment was I was going into my freshman year of high school. So coming off of a year of Catholic school and being homeschooled before that. And I was just like, I'm Catholic now. I should like try the rosary. And I kind of expected. So I like lit a candle in my room and had a little statue of Mary that my grandmother had given me. And I pulled out the rosary and I had like the how to do it thing. So I said the rosary and I kind of expected fireworks or something, but I had this deep sense of peace. So as a young teen, I don't know. It's not a very exciting story for me. It's more God just kind of taking care of it. I always tell people I'm a convert, but I can't take any credit for it.
Yeah. Tom, were you a convert too, or were you cradle?
I was cradle Catholic, daily communicant from like 8 to about 18. Except, and then in college, rebelled a little bit, not as much as Josh did.
I didn't become a libertarian.
Like
yeah.
No.
You weren't that crazy.
No. And then I just realized like all my beliefs and all, I started thinking about it, and a lot of them came from my faith and what I learned from my parents and their interaction with the faith. So not quite a revert because I never officially left the church, and you always marry somebody who's a stronger Catholic than you, and I certainly did that. She holds me accountable and brings me close to the Lord every day, and I bring her closer to heaven as she keeps on.
You give her the purgatorial suffering.
Exactly.
There you go.
Everyone has a role to play,
Yeah, I do. I don't know if anyone cares about me, but
I
grew up in
violins.
Yeah, get out the tiny violins. Yeah, my parents were a huge influence on me. We all had like somewhat of I feel like a family reversion, I guess. I mean, we were always going to mass. Like that was never a question. We always went to mass every Sunday. And then shout out to the apostolate of family consecration. I don't know if anyone could smell it on me, but I grew up going to Catholic Family Land. I know that there's a distinct charism associated with that. But yeah, it's Catholic Family Land. Phenomenal place. Highly recommend it. Can't recommend the apostolate enough. But going there, and I had some really formative experiences. And then it was like in high school, I chose to go to a Catholic school, Regina Caeli Academy, and then being there, it's all for me is just access to the sacraments. Like faith to me would feel so strange if there weren't real tangible sacraments, like ways for God to live within me. So the more that I've been around that, and I've just made decisions to stay close to that, and I think it's really benefited me tremendously. And then just also as I continue like working photography, right? Like, so I do almost exclusively Catholic weddings, and it's crazy to me the difference between working a Catholic wedding and then working a non-Catholic wedding, specifically in the Mass. And so when I go to a Catholic Mass in which it's clear to us that both the members of the couple have prepared and take the sacrament seriously, there is something unexplainable. There's a feeling in the air. There's an anticipation. There's just, I'm not even one to like use a ton of like flowery language, but like, dude, you can just tangibly feel grace in that room. And so to see people receive that sacrament and then engage in the sacrament of marriage faithfully, it really does restore faith in something greater. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just, I've had so many experiences where I'm like, I can't fully explain that. And that's kind of comforting to me in a way, because I guess the way I think about faith is like, if I could fully understand it, would it really come from somewhere else? Like, would it really come from above? I don't think so. So just continually learning and just knowing there's stuff that I don't know and I have to bridge that gap with faith is actually really encouraging to me in a strange way. Anyway, I just want to get that from you, Erica, because I admire you and your intellectual nature very much. So I thought I was going to hear a very intellectual answer, and I guess I did if you said a book did it. So we have FAQ Friday. For those that have survived the great crash of Friday of August 23rd, you can drop any questions that you have in the chat. I did want to say we got an email question, and I'm looking forward to Tom's perspective on this. I'm going to start with that. So shout out to Debbie from Michigan. She emailed. You can do that at loopcast@catholicvote.org. Debbie from Michigan said, just want to thank you all for such a fantastic show. I'm highly addicted. My question is, when did the Democratic Party change into what it has morphed into today? They make many claims, in quotes, insert laughter, but it seems as though traditional foundations have shifted from the 60s Kennedy era. My parents were proud Roman Catholic, but also very middle-class Democrats. They were pro-life. They would never support the party as it is today. It seems as though Dems claim to support the working class and point their fingers at billionaires while they line their own pockets. Does anyone else see this irony and double standard? I think many go along with the party because their parents or grandparents supported it. It's just not the same party. Tom, I'll start with you first.
Well, I know Josh is the resident historian on the podcast, except this is a subject that I've even written about, I think, in op-eds. And to me, I think a lot of it comes down to abortion. When Roe v. Wade happened in 1973, pro-lifers didn't have a party. Ted Kennedy, who was a Democrat, he was tinkering with pro-life. Gerald Ford and Richard Nixon, the Republican presidents, were not pro-life. They were pro-abortion. And so it wasn't until Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter when he ran in 1976, kind of indicated he was pro-life, and he got all the Baptists to vote for him and everything. And then he showed to be very different. And it was Ronald Reagan, I think, broke the Democratic Party by putting into the platform how Republicans are the pro-life party. And the Democrats started being just anti-Reagan everything, pro-Soviet. They were pro-Soviet Union. They didn't see the Soviet Union as the threat that Ronald Reagan did and the Republicans did. In 1988, it was still evolving. In 1988, Joe Biden was pro-life. Al Gore was pro-life. Jesse Jackson was pro-life. And they all changed around that year, understanding that to run for president as a Democrat, you had to be pro-abortion. And that slowly evolved into unions taking over the party and being like the very radical parts of unions, not the good parts that help the workers, but the part that still has a little bit of Karl Marx in them, and all those radical views that they just are trying to. Unfortunately, they've been successful where a lot of the radical views are no longer seen as radical. like same-sex marriage and the abortion itself. So
I saw someone mention the Obama era. Did that mean anything to you? Do you feel like it kicked into high gear with Obama?
I think Obama utilized the federal government more so than any other president before him. And since then, I think Joe Biden has like kicked it into high gear. Like Obama was one of the first ones to enact the FACE Act. The FACE Act passed in 1992 or 1993 under Bill Clinton. When Bill Clinton was president, it was never really enforced until Barack Obama, because both the Clinton and George W. Bush administrations thought it was unconstitutional. And it was under the Obama Biden administration where you started seeing the federal government coming in, forcing states to accept same-sex marriage, forcing states to fund abortions, everything along those lines. That now Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they flout the law, like forcing abortions in veterans hospitals and forcing the military to transport for abortions, things like that. All illegal actions, but they just don't care.
Yeah, I would say, anyone who wants more of a history on the transformation of the Democratic Party, Catholic Vote's book, For God, Country, and Sanity, which I have behind me in 2 copies. But in all seriousness, I think Matthew Schmitz's chapter in there on how gay marriage changed America touches on a lot of these threads, as well as Tom McCluskey, your chapter on the pro-life movement. You give kind of a history before saying what comes next. And I think all of those, as well as Rusty Reno's chapter on sort of the loss of our American homeland, all of those touch on the transformation that we have seen in the Democrat Party, and give a good sense of the different threads that have contributed to that, pro-life being, as you say, foremost among them.
Yeah, I even saw something about like Hillary, like most of the Republican Party today is to the left of where Hillary Clinton was in 1992, because she has a quote saying like on a traditional marriage. She was on a traditional marriage platform, which is just hilarious to think about now. And then I've seen. Go ahead, Tom.
They evolve the party because they take out their own dissenters. They don't allow for debate. On the pro-life issue, they primaried Dan Lipinski, who was one of the only Democrats to vote against Obamacare because of abortion. They tried to take out Henry Cuellar. It's one reason they don't really like RFK Jr. is because he's pro-life. And on other issues, they do the same thing. If you're pro-Israel, you're not welcome in the current Democratic Party. If you're pro-business, well, that's business right now. I think there's an evolution going there between the Democrat and Republican Party. But the Democratic Party does not allow for dissent, and they'll take you out if you do dissent. Look what happened to Joe Biden.
Yeah. Here's the quote I have. I think a marriage is a marriage. I think a marriage is as a marriage has always been between a man and a woman. Hillary Rodham Clinton, 2000. I mean, she would not even say this in public today. She's probably embarrassed to have this on her record.
She doesn't even think this today. So.
Which maybe she never thought it, but
yeah.
I think another interesting like cultural turning point was the Civil Rights Act, which basically made the government in the business of quashing quote unquote inequity and inequality within every aspect of American life, just opening the door for way more government intervention. So like the example that it eventually came to fruition on is like marriage. So like the government now is in the business of defining what marriage is and what marriage isn't. And so people thought, oh, that's not a big deal. People can love who they want to love. And now you're like, okay, Christian families can't adopt because they have these beliefs. And you have, in the state of Washington, you can have your own child taken away from you if you wouldn't put them through gender affirming care. So It's like, to me, the ball that was set in motion there, unfortunately, elements of it put the government into overdrive of injecting themselves into people's personal lives.
Well, welfare would have been part of that as well. That was passed in the 1960s, part of the Johnson's Great Society. The senator from New York, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, a Catholic, I believe a devout Catholic. He was from New York, a Democrat. very much supported all the welfare programs in the 60s, but in the late 70s and 80s started writing about the effect that these welfare programs were having on the family, especially Black families, where the government was replacing the dad.
Right.
And it just made dads less and less necessary. He used to describe, I believe it was him, he used to describe welfare was always supposed to be a safety net. Instead, it became a catcher's mitt. Instead of something that just helped a few people, it would catch people and not let them go. And so probably right alongside like some of the Civil Rights Act type stuff. The Civil Rights Acts in the 1960s were passed by Republicans mostly, because the Democrats would filibuster against them.
Yes. Also, I have something kind of developing as we speak. So all I wanted was a graphic for the show to show this. But Aid for Women, a pregnancy resource center in Chicago, was actually just attacked last night. And as many of you know, Catholic Vote's been keeping a tracker on the violence. And Mary Fiorito, I believe, Mary from Catholic Vote, she took these pictures. I'm not positive, but they were just in our Slack. So did she take those pictures, Tom? Do you know?
I think they were sent to her. She's close with the people who run it.
Okay, great. Right. Okay, so I take this, right? And so here's the tweet. All I said, Aid for Women, a pregnancy resource center in Chicago, attacked last night, a parting gift from the DNC. And if you look at the pictures, I mean, fake clinic, the dead babies are in Gaza. You get paint all over, red paint all over, and then you get, destroyed door, whatever. So I'm like, I just threw it up to have a graphic for today's show. It's already getting retweeted a bunch of times. And I see that the co-creator of The Big Bang Theory decided to comment on it.
What?
So, from him, that kind of vandalism is awful. Care to weigh in on 383 death threats, 153 acid attacks, 337 invasions, 41 bombings, 655 anthrax threats, 3 kidnappings, 173 acts of arson, 17 attempted murders, and 11 murders carried out by abortion foes. That is from Bill Prady. I guess he co-created The Big Bang Theory. I don't know where he got these numbers. But
yeah, I think it's obvious that he delves in fiction. But because I mean, some of those, and look, every time violence happens at an abortion facility, the first people to condemn it are pro-lifers, despite the violence that goes within the abortion facility. However, I do not believe since George Tiller, almost 20 years ago, there has been an attack where somebody has died. The Democrats have there's violence. You could say there's violence on both sides, but the Democrats own the violence now.
Tom, someone shot at you.
Right. I mean,
literally on this show, we have someone who has been shot at by a pro-abortion extremist.
I was 2 floors above when the guns were going off. So
okay, yeah, really removed from the violence.
Just to be clear, man. But imagine if it was a Democratic president who survived an assassination attempt and then got up and pumped his hair, and he's now doing open air events again.
Yeah, we would not memory hole that.
No.
Wait, Tom, I think you've told it before on the show, but you got to tell the show again about the time when you were in the office when this was going on.
It was, I think 12 or 13 years ago this month, working at Family Research Council, up on the 3rd floor, heard what I thought was a car backfiring. And then all of a sudden a young woman, who was converting to the Catholic faith at the time. She's now married, has a kid, comes running around the office saying, Leo's been shot. Leo was the security guard at Family Research Council. The gunman's still downstairs. And of course, we all go into panic mode. I was the highest ranking person on the floor at the time because I was a senior vice president. And what scared me the most was they all looked at me to kind of lead them. And in my head, and I never told them this till years later, all I could think of, we are so screwed. You're looking at me to help you out. But thankfully, they didn't need to rely on me. They relied, thanks to a guy named Leo Johnson and the Lord. Talk about intervention. Leo is not supposed to be at the desk that day. Leo is a very big guy, at least 200 pounds. Even after getting shot in the arm, wrestled the gun away from the gunman, and had the gun on the gunman. And he always says that a voice told him, don't shoot him. Even though he was perfectly in the right to shoot him, Leo did not. So we got to learn what motivated the shooter. And what motivated the shooter was the Southern Poverty Law Center calling Family Research Council a hate group because of their views on marriage. And conveniently on their website, they had a map exactly where Family Research Council offices were. So, and Southern Poverty Law Center to this day does not regret a thing of what they do. They still have a map up. They now go after other organizations. I'm kind of disappointed Catholic Vote hasn't been listed a hate group yet.
Yeah, right.
I've been with you guys almost 3 years now, and I really think it's due.
You got to try harder, Tom.
I know.
Yeah. Moms for Liberty were on there. I mean, yeah, they've got.
Yeah, Josh always says it's an honor. He hopes that someone at the New York Times writes a hit piece on him, calling him like a Catholic radical extremist when he goes. But yeah,
maybe one of those Republican op-editors can.
That's right. David French is coming for Josh. Yeah.
Now, you know what would be nice if there was somehow a federal law that protected pregnancy resource centers like this that carried 10-year prison sentences for attacking these centers, because it sure does exist for these pro-abortion extreme. I mean, no, it exists for pro-life protesters is what I'm saying. I mean, the latest being in Michigan, we have an 89-year-old woman who's going to be thrown in jail by the Department of Justice for 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
Holocaust survivor for sitting in an office peacefully. And we're talking about, like, Tom, you had someone come in and shoot at you guys. We've had over 300 Catholic churches attacked, vandalized. I mean,
no, 400. We're almost to 450. We're going to hit 450 this month.
Maybe we should send that to the Big Bang Theory guy, although I doubt he cares much about
not sure facts
any of
are
that.
Really what. Yeah.
Maybe he was a part of it. I don't know. Seriously. Remember there was that guy from the Southern Poverty Law Center that was a part of Antifa. He like attacked a police center in Atlanta. And you're just like, these are the guys writing the hate map? Awesome. That influences government policy and decision making? Awesome. It's like living it up.
And if you ever have the time, I believe the guy works at Heritage Foundation or works for the Daily Caller. They've exposed the Southern Poverty Law Center. It is a sexist, racist organization. It is so. Yeah.
It's always the people you least expect, you know?
Well, the guy who founded it was this guy who made money off of telemarketing and direct mail. And they have like a few $100 million in the Cayman Islands.
And
I'm not making
women.
that is true. Yeah. I'm not making that up.
I believe you. Also, we have a fun question here. So for Erica, how often do you think about World War II? I have a theory. If men think about Roman Empire daily, then World War II is the equivalent for women. Is this true?
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. Who said that? Yeah, no, I think about World War II multiple times a day. How do you know me so
multiple
well?
times a day?
Yes, multiple times a day.
That's crazy talk.
What
I'm thinking about why? Because I mean, if you count, like, I think about nuclear weapons. I think about like, the resistance. I think about the Holocaust. I think about Hitler's rise to power. I think about the guards in the concentration camps and like the banality of evil. Oh my gosh. How do you know me so well? Yeah. I think that women do think more about World War II than the Roman Empire.
You really do. You're willing to stand behind that take. You're saying that women think more about World War II than the Roman Empire.
I think educated women do. I'm not.
Whoa. Is that your basket of deplorables moment? People that don't think about World War II?
Well, no.
Okay. Erica.
You're thinking of historical periods that women would gravitate towards. I think World War II would be like mid 20th century totalitarian stuff, because we have the images. I think a big part of it is we have the photographs of moms and their children suffering during that time. And it, if you've seen those, it sticks in you. I wish more women thought about history more, that they could just think about any historical period. I am very down on my sex. I'm sorry.
Not the women in this chat. The women in this chat.
No, not the women in this
historically literate.
No.
Complete.
They have
high IQs. They
the
read all
women
the
at
time.
the Democratic National Convention.
Oh,
I wish
yeah,
they
that's a good
talked
point.
about it a little more. But the men there too. It goes same for the men at the Democratic National.
Just because
Yeah, that's
Erica
fair.
wants to end women's suffrage does not mean we should think any less of her.
Oh man,
Tom,
I'm never
Tom,
going to
do
run
you
for
have-
president. That's for sure.
Do you have a niche historical period that occupies your thoughts?
It's hard to. I've actually I switched, and I was history poli sci major in college, a
Okay.
dual major, and I studied mostly 20th century and a lot of the Cold War type stuff. Except more recently, I've been listening to this podcast and really got into the Civil War, and just in the time before the Civil War, and I see so many similarities. And I see so many. There's a book called Fields of Blood. And it's based on the journal of a house clerk of a clerk of the House of Representatives, and it details all the different fights and debates that went on, and actual physical fights that went on over slavery during this time. And when people talk, there was one time like a fist fight of about 20 different members of Congress right in front of the speaker's chair. And the clerks are wondering, how do we break this up? It broke up because one of the members of Congress, their toupee, flew off his head, went into the air, and landed in the center of the fight. And everybody just stopped and started laughing, and that kind of broke the tension.
That was like a W for the bald guys. Yep, good job.
Man.
You ended the fight with your toupee.
I almost, part of me, I don't like violence, but I almost long for those days. And I was just going to
say the same thing, because so many disagreements as men could just be solved by slugging it out and then hugging each other afterwards. Everyone knows this. This isn't even like an out there take.
You're talking about men with testosterone, Pogo.
That's true. I mean, didn't Alexander Hamilton get shot? I mean, they were just like, back when you could do legal duels, they're like, dude, you can't talk smack like that. Let's go out. And
I don't think that ended out well for him.
No.
No.
They didn't just hug it out because he died.
Yeah, but I'm not saying with guns. That's what I was saying with, like, one of my favorite congressional moments was the caning of Senator Sumter. I mean, how great is that moment? It's basically, he asked, you knew it was about to go down when he asked the room, clear out all the females. He's like, clear out the females. And he wanted to duel the guy, but the guy was too cowardly to duel. So he's like, the only time I know I'm going to get him is in Congress, because he's been talking smack. And then he's like, clear out the women. Women get cleared out, whips out the cane, game on. I think that'd be better than some of the,
Time
like,
and a place.
What's going on in Congress right now. You know the phrase, like, men used to go to war? Like, we have, like, Marjorie Greene Taylor wearing a MAGA hat, and, like, you know, our 90-year-old president, however old he is now, like, looking at him with surprised face. Like, that was the biggest drama from the night. Was like, it's just become a pony show. Get back to the canes.
I'm not opposed to handing out canes every time that a member walks onto the House floor. But let's remember, Charles Sumter was defending slavery.
True.
In the position of the South.
True. You're gonna hang that on me, Tom? Come on, man. I see what you're doing.
Well, I just wait till I tweet.
Yeah, Tom, I'm gonna get blasted on Twitter now. Awesome. Okay.
One of my co-hosts wants to end women's voting, and the other one is pro returning slavery.
And we all love Harrison Butker. It's great.
Yeah, all in a show in which the stream crashed, and so we're back. This has been quite the show.
This show will be mine by the time Josh comes back.
That's right. That's right.
Turns out Josh leaves for one show. It's all falling apart. All of our most extreme opinions are coming out.
But we're going to keep that between the three of us, right?
Definitely. Nobody knows but us three.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we're going a little long. We got the Twilight Zone still. Erica explicitly told me she is very excited for hers.
Yeah.
What you got going on?
I switched it out. Because
the gay penguins?
Can we play a video on this thing?
Yeah.
We can?
I think so.
Awesome. Okay, scroll down.
To where?
Oh, to the page here. We got penguins right here. You got it?
No.
This is awesome. All right,
I have it in. It was in your Twilight Zone, yeah.
Yeah, it is my Twilight Zone, but I switched
Where
it
are the
out. So here you
penguins?
go. Just give me a second. Right there.
All right, good.
All right, let's go. We're gonna play this. Breaking news from Australia. This is from Down Under. You got sound on that, Poco?
You guys can't hear this?
No, but that's okay. Keep going. Just keep playing it for the people.
Wait, the chat can't hear it either.
The chat can't hear it either.
It's over.
No, I knew that this would happen. All right.
You're going to have to... Can you act it out?
I can act it out. Well, it's penguins, and I'm not quite sure my penguin Gork is like up to speed. But yes, alas, we have heard sad news from Australia. Sven, the penguin, is no more. They had to put him down. This was the way that Sydney's Sea Life Aquarium has announced that one half of their gay penguin power couple, Sven, partner of Magic, has died, leaving behind a loving partner, 2 children, and a global legacy. And I mean, this clip from mainstream media, BBC News, was something else. But
it's a tearjerker, really.
It's a tearjerker. I mean, people were weeping, people were crying. But Sven, and I had to take a deeper look on this. So Sven and Magic. Turns out that in 2018, when Australia forced same-sex marriage, so-called, on the entire continent, down under, that the Australian Zoo suddenly discovered that, whoa, we have these penguins, these 2 male penguins who are exhibiting courtship-like behavior. And of course, what does this mean? This means that the penguins are gay. Which means what? It means that being gay is perfectly natural. Look, animals do it, so it's great when we do it too. And so the zookeepers were like, gee, I wonder what will happen if we give them a fake egg. So they gave them a fake egg, and the penguins, of course, build a little nest for it. And then they say, well, okay, we'll give them a real egg. And, of course, the penguins hatch it. So now they are a gay couple that has used surrogacy to hatch 2 children, quote unquote. And it's just such an exercise. So
do I have to be the one to say this is a Parks and Rec plot?
This is a Parks and Rec plot.
Rez says sounds like the plot of Parks and Rec episode. It literally was.
Yes. And it kept going for years until now these penguins are an emblem of the gay community. So I looked up a couple of things. What else do penguins do naturally in the wild? Well, penguins crowd at the edge of an iceberg before pushing one of their own into the water to appease the leopard seals swimming below so that, they won't get eaten. They also abandon their chicks to the Antarctic. They kidnap each other's offspring. The penguins will use their beaks to stab each other's eggs so that their offspring have a better chance. So there's all, I don't think...
You just recited the DNC platform.
I know, right? The DNC loves their...
Shout out to Sips with Sarah says, we used to go to war, now we mourn gay penguins.
It's what we do. Oh my gosh.
But Erica, you bring up a great point because some of the best and brightest in the transgender movement often bring up examples of animals to, justify biological non-realities. And then they always choose to bring up like, well, this one is like intersex or gay or whatever. And then they never bring up the fact that like, a lot of animals eat their own kids.
Yeah.
Like you're being a little selective about the animal kingdom.
Gang rape rural dogs. Like this is not, we don't go to the animal kingdom for our moral compass. Like, come on, guys.
No, although you know what? I think a lot of people would benefit from growing up near a farm because you see the circle of life and you see how, you see a much more raw reality of what we're surrounded around instead of living on the internet where you can get these bizarre theories about gay penguins.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Twilight Zone.
Erica, thank you for sharing the gay penguins with us. I was excited for that. I saw that on the list. McCluskey, do you have one?
No, I really don't. Though just when we're talking about gaslighting, and I know we covered a lot of the DNC, even though I didn't hear a lot of what Erica was having to say at the time. But when they talk about freedom, it is just amazing about some of the things. And somebody from SBA List sent me some examples of the kind of freedom that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz support. Women bullied into abortion, babies left to die after a botched abortion, taxpayers forced to pay for abortions, minors given secret abortions without parental consent, attacks on pregnancy centers, as we just saw, eliminating alternatives to abortion, women given abortion drugs without the consent. This is their idea of freedom. And if I could just use a quip I couldn't before because of the problems and all, when we were talking about the American flag and Democrats care about the American flag, the main thing that the Democrats, I think, like about the American flag is it's so flammable. So,
I mean, facts.
And I'll just leave it at that in my Porky Pig voice and hand it over to Tom.
All right, so mine is just genuine admiration of the force known as Matt Walsh.
Oh my gosh, this was
so
awesome.
We talked about it last time, but he had a viral moment where he snuck into the DNC in character for his new movie Am I Racist? And I'm not a religious listener of Matt Walsh. I'll like pop in, I'll see clips every once in a while. But his show that he did yesterday about his experience sneaking into the DNC is just like, it might be the peak. I know he's done some good trolls in the past. I know he's a best-selling LGBTQ author, but this is up there with some of his best. This is a fastball. So I can't share audio because this is the strangest show we've ever done. But one of my favorite parts of this was he details his story going in. And he went in first and he talked to a woman in a pink COVID mask and was talking about how he decenters his whiteness and very clearly so he sets this whole thing up as saying like he actually was on a genuine journey of discovery as an anti-racist to be an ally and to move forward, and definitely not as a gimmick to promote his movie, in which he plugs like 5 times throughout this episode, which is awesome. And so he goes and he's like, I had this conversation and I was like, well, I know that Democrats are the most tolerant and most welcoming people, so I'll be able to do this. So he's in conversations with this woman, and then he gets kicked out and they said, you can't come back. And he's like, I took that to mean, metaphorically, I need to die to myself and be reborn as a better ally. So he gets kicked out in the morning, comes back. Then he has the viral moment with Chuck Schumer where he's behind him because the security was a little bit lax, I guess. And my favorite part about the exchange was he got interviewed by someone from the Bulwark, I think. And let me see if I can pull up the quote. I just cannot stop laughing at this quote from the Bulwark. Like, a legitimate journalist like chased him down and was like, tried to get him to comment on something. And he was like, I know you're Matt Walsh. He's like, I'm not Matt Walsh. And he's like, no, I know you are. And he's like, no, the man known as Matt Walsh is dead. Yeah. And I cannot get over it. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. Okay. Here's the serious journalist speak here. Walsh regularly dons a similar disguise to film gotcha moments for documentaries, in quotes, lampooning progressives. For that reason, it wasn't difficult to recognize him, even on the crowded convention floor. I asked him if he was Matt Walsh. No, I am not, he said after a wide-eyed look. When I followed up with, I know it's you, he replied, that man is dead. I'm a new man now. And I was just thinking about how funny, like, he was on the floor and his Chuck Schumer bit was going viral at the time. And he said people in the arena were like discovering because they were on Twitter and saw the moment. So now all of a sudden they're trying to hunt him down. So this journalist like hunts him down here. And he said, of course, like he had to get out of there. It was a little too hot. So he gets out of there, but he sends in his crew back in disguise. And they're handing out these cards that go to project2025.com. And they even had one given to Don Lemon, which was my personal favorite part. Like Don Lemon's new rebirth, in a manner of speak, is he's on the floor doing like man on the street interviews, which talk about a fall from grace from working at CNN. But he gives this card to Don Lemon. He's like, check it out. Project 2025 is going to say like all the stuff that's in it. If you go to Project 2025, you get this website. It's just like a really bad website. And then it redirects to I am a racist. And all-time troll job by the Matt Walsh. He's like, this is even better than when I rented an apartment in a certain county so that I could go speak at a school board meeting. It's like, yeah, Matt Walsh has been throwing the fastballs. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I think we're actually going to see it as an office next week. So I'll be able to give you a review.
That's awesome.
No spoilers. I cannot believe we have people in this chat still sticking with us after that episode. Awesome. Shout out to everyone that listens to the show. I don't know, man. I don't know what to say about today. Pray for us. It was rough, but we made it through together. Tom, thank you for joining as well. And you can hear both of us at this point. Mm-hmm. So thank you for coming on, Erica.
You did a great job.
Jeez, I'm like, I feel very rattled right now, but we made it. So yeah, we're going to be back on Monday next week, Eastern time, 11 a.m., Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So make sure you join there. We're going to have a good slate of guests next week as Josh is on vacation. Best way to help the program, become a champion, catholicvote.org/champions. You can email me, loopcast@catholicvote.org. But honestly, the biggest thing, pray for us. I see St. Michael being requested there. Always request him. But St. Thomas More, St. Fidelis, Our Lady of Guadalupe, pray for us. We will see you guys in the next episode. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Peace.
That's it.
Oh, my God.